Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, defense wins championships, and Ottawa thinks that they have theirs figured out. How confident are you in a top pair of Thomas Chabot and Jakob Chychrun?
And we're climbing to the top of our organizational value rankings. We are in an elite tier with two great young defensemen.
And an old grizzled vet who still has game. All of it's coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 873 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat over 50 infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. A reminder, you can follow Locked On Senators on Instagram, lockedon.senators, on Twitter at Sens Central, and also, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We are also free and available on YouTube. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, and Pilsy, it will forever be known as the day the Senators traded Eric Karlsson.
Yeah, the time is nigh that we talked about this one, Ross. And I mean, this was a tough day. I remember covering this with a mixture of despair and excitement, which is a weird combo to have. That's the yin and yang of emotions right there. But it turned out pretty damn good for the Ottawa Senators in the long term. And I love Tim Stützle. I'll just say that.
5 years ago today, does it feel longer or shorter?
Longer. Yeah.
5 years, man. 5 years. And all the assets that Ottawa got back, some sprouted into superstars and others were just quick in and outs on their way through. When you're looking at Dylan DeMello was traded for a 3rd round pick and Rudolph Balcers was put on waivers. So yeah, pour one out for Pilsy, Rudolph Balcers. But Josh Norris, who we just spoke about yesterday on the organizational value rankings, of course, health is so important for him. But Pilsy, health's also extremely important for the two players I mentioned off the top, Thomas Chabot and Jakob Chychrun. Neither have played an 82-game season ever played an 82-game season. How important is it for them to stay healthy first and foremost this season, and second, get some chemistry that they weren't able to get last spring because, well, they weren't healthy at the same time?
Yeah, they didn't really have a chance to. For Thomas Chabot, he's pretty consistently good for 60 games, and then it hits that 60 games March time of the season, and unfortunately that's when he seems to have an injury. Now, whether that's like wear and tear, which for seasons he was playing way too many minutes in meaningless games and just getting absolutely worn down by the time the season's almost over, so that makes sense. But now it's not just the Thomas Chabot show on the back end. There's lots of guys there that can help lifts and pull some of that weight on the D-core. So I think hopefully we see a full season for Thomas Chabot, especially Ross, because the end of the season could be very and should be very meaningful this time around. So we can't have Thomas Chabot in March go down, and that's a real shakeup to this roster. So I'm hoping that with Chychrun, Sanderson, these guys coming in and helping out, Thomas Chabot won't have that wear and tear at the end.
Even this year, you saw his average time on ice slip under 26 minutes for the first time since 2018-19, back down to 24:58. So basically down just over a minute. No longer is he first, second, or third in average time on ice. He was down in the teens, which is where I want to see him. I think a perfect situation for Chabot is 23 minutes a night and have maybe 3 of those on the power play and then let him do the rest of the work at even strength. But Before we get, because no spoilers, but we're getting down to the nitty gritty of the organizational value rankings. And you may notice neither of the players that we're discussing right now have been discussed. We'll get into each individual season, but I want to look at it from a tandem standpoint. You look at the Boston Bruins. They've got a top pair, potentially, of Matt Grzelcyk and Charlie McAvoy. Now, will they have Hampus Lindholm up there, or will they keep him with Brandon Carlo like they did last year? That's yet to be seen. Buffalo's got Matthias Samuelsson with Rasmus Dahlin. We know the Toronto Maple Leafs as well have Morgan Riley and TJ Brody. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have Victor Hedman with Nicholas Perbix. If you're catching my drift here, it seems like each team is kind of splitting up their top two defensemen. So are we saying that Jake Sanderson is a top two defenseman, or are we kind of loading up, if you're the Ottawa Senators, on that top pair?
I'll speak for myself, Ross. I am saying Jake Sanderson is a top two defenseman. I would even go as far to say Jake Sanderson is a top one defenseman. Like that, I don't think that's too crazy to say. So as long as Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot are on the top pair together, I would say the Ottawa Senators are following suit and splitting their top guys up.
I was hoping you'd go that direction. I feel the same way. So on that note, how would you rank the Senators' top pair with those that I just mentioned? And you can even throw the Florida Panthers in the mix there. I know they've got some injuries on the back end they're going to have to contest with, so maybe take this with a grain of salt, but it looks like they could be opening up the season with Gustav Forsling and Josh Mahura as their top pair.
Yeah, that's a pair for sure. I mean, but when Ekblad and Montour are out to start the season, that's not really a fair comparison there. But look, I would say of all the kind of top pairs you listed, I would say the pair of Chabot and Chychrun is most similar to Riley and Brody, right? Like Morgan Riley and Thomas Chabot, good skating defensemen that are able to put up points, kind of quarterback the power play, and they've been relied upon by their teams for a long time. It's the only team each of those guys has ever played for. And then TJ Brody and Jakob Chychrun are similar players in the fact that they're more touted for their defensive game, although Chychrun, I would say, gets the nod in the offensive game there, especially when it comes to goal scoring.
At this part of their career, for sure. Also, interesting that you zoomed in on those guys, because Brody's also a left shot defenseman that plays the right side, and they're going to need that out of Jakob Chychrun. And that was kind of a big storyline last season, right? It's like, how comfortable will he be over there? Do you think there's a chance that Thomas Chabot excels more on the right side? Because I think DJ Smith's going to try them both at training camp.
I don't love Thomas Chabot being on the right side. And I'd be surprised by that, Ross, because DJ Smith famously said he doesn't like to do that. And the only time he would put a defenseman on his offside is if it's not a puck-carrying transitional guy, if it's kind of the second more shut down defensively responsible guy on his offside. And that would be Chychrun in the pair of Chabot and Chychrun. So I'm out on the idea of moving Chabot to the right side. I don't think it's necessary. And there's another guy in that decor that is able to play left and right side, not only Jakob Chychrun. So I wouldn't be doing that to Thomas Chabot. I think that'd be a silly decision.
Who's that one?
Eric Brandstrom, of course, the versatility king.
Well, hey, Tyler Clevin also played left and right. Remember the famous quote from Brad Berry, open up 3 extra jobs for you at the next level.
It's true. Yeah. Oh, you thought I was going with Tyler Clevin on that answer, didn't you?
No,
he can play right side in Belleville, Ross.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started. The comments are going to light up asking, well, what's his Corsi? Hey, Pills, what's his Corsi? The old Eric Brandstrom debate. We'll have that plenty next week. Training camp starts next Wednesday, September 20th. We're almost there. The golf tournament is September 19th. And eventually, we're going to get the roster for the Sens rookies. Eventually, I'm told we will get a roster for the games that are happening in just over 48 hours. I hope the players know if they're in it.
Yeah, maybe we can get one of the guys to leak it to us. That should be what we're working on, Ross.
Right now, we're working off the fact that the Kitchener Rangers are having 2 free agent invites coming. We're getting it from OHL teams. Come on, we gotta get this right now, and we'll hopefully have that for you on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Senators. Heck, the Sens are going to be on the ice at practice. The rookies will tomorrow. So you hope that at some point we find out who will participate in those games. But coming up next, we've got the organizational value rankings. I'm so excited about all three of these players.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get to that next. You're listening to Locked On Senators.
And Ross, I'm so excited about our new sponsor. New sponsor alert. Hit it. Boom, new sponsor alert. You guys heard it off the top. It's Jace Medical. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get the Jace case is fill out a simple form online, and in some cases, you can jump on a quick call with one of their board-certified physicians. Get ongoing care from their physicians on any treatment-related questions. It's doctor-created, doctor-recommended. Don't be caught unprepared. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you know you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. You have it ready. Jace Medical makes sure that you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360. You heard that right. $360 on these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical. Plus, there's more, an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Promo code Locked On.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You know we love our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. They are right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. When you head there, let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, whether you're going there for a quick bite on your way to Lansdowne, whether you're settling in for an evening at the pub where you can take in live music, trivia, battle bots. There's always a fun event going on at the Glebe Central Pub. The Darts League is starting soon, and we know that as TD Place comes hockey season, from PWHL to the Ottawa 67s, it's going to be a great place to go and hang out and watch some sports. Of course, yeah, the Red Blacks are limping to the finish line of their regular season, but Atletico Ottawa is great. It's a fun supporter bar at the Glebe Central Pub as well. Great food, tasty drinks, an amazing atmosphere. I can't wait to get back to the Glebe Central Pub. Actually, last time I went to Ottawa, I just snuck in, had a quick drink on my way to Lansdowne. It is a quick in and out, but with a great smile, great vibes, always at the Glebe Central Pub. Go find them at 779 Bank Street and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. Find them in the heart of the Glebe, 779 Bank Street. You're among friends at the Glebe Central Pub. All right, Pilsy. So it feels so far away because we don't even have rosters yet for the rookie tournament. And then it's the rookie tournament, and then it's the golf tournament, then it's the physicals, then it's the preseason. But we're actually only 28 days away from the start of the regular season. Senators at Hurricanes. And if you want to go see a nice little mixtape, get you fired up, head over to Twitter at Sens Central. I put together a little Claude Giroux mashup. No spoilers, but we could be talking about that man pretty soon. However, make sure you're actually going to Send Central on Twitter because you know the countdowns, Pillsy, they can get kind of stale. It's just like a photo of a guy wearing that number. I've tried to find the most ridiculous video that I can for each number going forward. So the Andre Waugh one is hilarious at 26. The Chris Neal one, the Anton Volchenkov one, the Kaspers Dogovins one. I've got them all preloaded. We're ready to go through the weekend. The countdown is on for the Senators season.
Yeah, I'm excited each and every day as we get closer and closer. But that opening clip of your Claude Giroux video of the Giroux family cheering, I could watch that on repeat a million times over. What's his youngest son's name with the headphones on?
Gavin?
Yeah, I don't know if...
I think
I mix up which one's which, but that kid is a vibe in that video. He's just bouncing along, cheering. Like, that's the best.
Yeah, noted Send Central follower Ryan Giroux. Sorry, we don't know the kids' names, but we'll just keep vibing with them. And we've got the other one of Giroux when he's putting on the Sens jersey. Him and his kid are giving the thumbs up. I like using that one quite a bit as well. What do you say we get back to our organizational value rankings? Because I mean, it makes sense. We're getting more important as we go up, but like the season could make or break, I think, between 7 and 5, because 3 players that injuries have played a factor in the last little while. We did Josh Norris yesterday, but man, if these guys all click, if these guys all play 82 games, 70 games, please, could be a heck of a season. Coming in at number 6 on our 2023 organizational value rankings, we are going to go, drum roll please, with Jakob Chychrun.
Jakob Chychrun. Yeah, this was a big deal when Jakob Chychrun was brought in. Pierre Dorion, it became a bit of a joke, being like, Dorion's looking for right side defenseman. Dorion's looking for a defenseman. Who's looking for a defenseman? The Ottawa Senators. And I honestly didn't think they were going to pull that deal off, Ross. There were teams that were very interested, teams that were offering big offers, according to rumors that we heard. And then all it took is me turning off my phone on airplane mode on the way to Cabo for that deal to drop. And when I landed, you broke the news to me, and we had a sensational trip, that's for sure. And having Jakob Chychrun in the mix on this team, he's really, as health permitted, I hate saying that, but you have to asterisk it, he really is that missing piece that this D-core needed, because with Sanderson coming in here, they needed a guy that could play on the right side, that was responsible defensively, but could also put the puck in the back of the net, and Jakob Chychrun can do both of those things.
Yes, he can. He played 48 games last year, some injury, but also you might remember the Arizona Coyotes just shut him down because they didn't want to risk injury when a trade was imminent. So he basically just sat around for 3 weeks leading up to that trade. In 48 games, he had 9 goals, 24 assists, 33 points, 30 penalty minutes, and between playing for Arizona and Ottawa last year was a +7. 6'2", 220-pound left shot defenseman, Canadian, 25 years old. He's got some American blood in him as well, but he has represented Canada on the world stage. So we'll go with Canadian for Jakob Chychrun. But Pillsy, what really jumped out, because I had never really put 2 and 2 together, right? You know that Jakob Chychrun played 12 games with Ottawa, had 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. But I had never added together his point production with Arizona. He actually finished second among Sens defensemen in points last year. Sanderson had 32, Chychrun had 33, except Chychrun, again, missed 35 games. So it's down to the point where it's like, man, everyone touts him for being this solid, rock solid defenseman. Mike Kelly talking about how he has one of the most active sticks in the league defensively. You notice it right away when you play him. One hand on his stick, defending with a huge perimeter around him. And then you look at the numbers, you're like, wait, but he's an offensive defenseman.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and most offensive defensemen, you're looking at them and you're like, man, they rack up the assists, or look at all those power play points. But this guy's a goal scorer. Like in 2020, 2021, he had 18 goals, 23 assists, almost more goals than assists. Math guy for a defenseman here.
Led all defensemen in the NHL in goals that year.
Yeah, I believe it. And Ross, I was looking at his highlights from last year, watching the Arizona goals as well. And man, this guy can rip it. His wrist shot is incredible. Like that game up against Columbus where he gets that cross ice pass, holds, wrist shot, bar down and in. That was such an exciting moment. And Ross, just a little aside, the Sens were out shooting the Columbus Blue Jackets 22-3 at that point in that game. So that was utter domination, and Chychrun kind of got to cash in there. But yeah, I want to touch on his defensive game too, because that's the thing. Thomas Chabot has never had a partner that, I'll stop myself there, because Dylan DeMello was a great defensive defenseman, and that was a great yin and yang pair. But DeMello is not on the same level as Jakob Chychrun. But that's the thing. If Thomas Chabot can worry less about being responsible defensively and have a guy that can take care of that for him, I think he can succeed so much more, because we did see some blunders defensively from Thomas Chabot when it was Zaitsev or plug in any random Ottawa Senators defenseman that was paired with him. He wasn't exactly able to pick up the slack while producing offensively. He can't do it all. Like, you can't blame him there. So having a guy like Chychrun that will help out defensively on when opponents are coming in transition, good gap control, I think is going to help him out a lot. And it's not like Jakob Chychrun can't handle himself with the puck and producing offensively either. So it's not like teams are going to just be like, hey, let's just dump it in on Chychrun's side of the ice every time and then we'll pounce on him. No, that's not going to be a strategy that's effective in my opinion. So could this finally be the proper partner for Thomas Chabot? I hope so.
I hope so too, because Ottawa paid a hefty price to get him, a first-round pick that ended up being 12th overall. Daniil Boot was the pick from Arizona there, and then 2 second-round picks as well. So you need Jakob Chychrun to not only be in the lineup, but to be an impactful piece, because as we just rattled off in segment 1, like the top pairs are all so spread out equally in terms of a top 4. Everyone seems to have a great defenseman on each pair, but to have a second great defenseman on a top pair is something that could really separate the Ottawa Senators from their competition this year. And again, you're hoping that not only will Chychrun take pressure off Chabot on the ice, but he'll allow him to sit off the ice a little bit more and not play 26 minutes and really just be gassed by game 60. Really, I think it's important. Like some games, man, if things are going the right way, if you get up to an early lead, like I wouldn't even hate if Sanderson Zub play more minutes in certain games. I don't think they should be forcing Chabot and Chychrun to play too many minutes all the time. Like be in that 22 to 24 minute range.
Yeah, well, I like the thought process, Ross, of if the Ottawa Senators are down by a goal or two, I want to see Chychrun-Chabot out there more often than not. Now, if they're up by a goal or two, give me Sanderson and Zub shutting down other teams' top line so they can hold that lead. I think that's how that's going to play out as the season progresses.
I love it. So what for you would be a successful season for Jakob Chychrun?
Look, I'm going to be honest here. I don't anticipate Chychrun will play a full 82 games. That's not an expectation of mine. I just think with the amount of injuries he's had as a young player, only 25 years old, chances are he is going to get injured. Now, hopefully those injuries can be limited. And in the middle of the season, I want him healthy for the start and the finish. I think if, there's some issues during the middle of the season, you got to deal with that. But I'm going to say I want 60 games out of Jakob Chychrun, 15 goals, 25 assists.
Okay. I think that'd be a strong season. Give me a plus player. Give me a player who's on the ice for, a lot of offensive opportunities and, maybe limiting the defense in the neutral zone, not even allowing guys to set up with that active stick and physicality and using his strength. And again, the X factor is health with Jakob Chychrun. Jakob Chychrun comes in at number 6 on our organizational value rankings. I should mention as well, he signed for this year and next year at $4.6 million, or what we call that, the Zaitsev. So it's a huge improvement on Nikita Zaitsev. And you look at the pairs that Thomas Chabot has been a part of. It's been Ron Hainsey, Dylan DeMello, Nikita Zaitsev, a cup of coffee with Artem Zub as well. And Johnny Oduya in his rookie year? Like
Branson maybe a little.
Yeah, he needs a solid partner, and he'll get that with Jakob Chychrun. All right, coming up after the break, we've got 2 more to get to today. You're listening to Locked On Senators. All right, Pilsy. Just reminding everyone to follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram, and the Patreon is booming. You can head over on Sens Central on our link tree, find the Patreon, or just go to Patreon and search Sens Central. Easy way to support the pod, and it's going to be a very fun Sens-centric fantasy hockey league starting this year. We've got enough. We're going to have 2 20-team leagues is the goal. So help us reach that goal, support the pod, and have some fun along the way. Head over to Patreon for all that. Coming in at number 5 on our organizational value rankings, it's Thomas Chabot, left shot defenseman, a guy who's been overworked to the bone, to the core. But now, is it time for him to spread his wings and put the offense and defense together and be the player that is the only defenseman in World Juniors history to win MVP?
Yeah, that's a good callback stat, Ross. I forgot about that one. That's a big deal. And Thomas Chabot had, as far as points go, a pretty good season. Like in 68 games, 11 goals, 30 assists for 41 points. And that's his second best year ever. He had 55 points in 2018, 2019. And I really think with Jakob Chychrun coming in here and Jake Sanderson being a part of this, there's no reason why Thomas Chabot can't get back to his career high that he had in 2018, 2019, like I mentioned, because now he's not going to be relied upon as much. He's going to get a more feasible amount of time on ice. Hopefully doesn't get worn down by the end of the season like we already talked about. And I still think that this is a guy that can get it done on the power play. And with all the weapons the Ottawa Senators have on the power play on both units, whether he's on the top or second power play unit, there's a lot of points to be had. And I think Thomas Chabot is still, he has that smooth skating ability. He has that ability to transition the puck up ice, a good first pass, all those things. And I really think fans, and myself included to an extent, that were a little disappointed with the season last year, you're going to be pleasantly surprised with how he does this upcoming season.
As you mentioned, you rattled off the stats, so I'll continue on by saying that Thomas Chabot is 6'2", 196 pounds, 26 years old, really into the prime of his career. He's got 5 years left at $8 million. And I put at the bottom here, he's 24th in games played in Sens history. But big if, he plays a full season this year, he's going to climb all the way up into the top 15. So this is a player who, I mean, he's dedicated his career to the Ottawa Senators. And I think that it's easy to have the offensive defenseman as a bit of a whipping boy. We asked Mike Kelly, right? He's like, yeah, all my friends and family in Ottawa, like, they're always asking me about the Sens.
Yep.
I said, who's the most contentious player? And it's always Thomas Chabot. And I think from the outside, it's a lot easier to understand the value that he brings. Whereas, yeah, there's some mistakes that need to be cleaned up. But I'm willing to honestly say that a bunch of those mistakes are because he's overworked. Now, this stat doesn't like just show it all. Like, it's not all on this stat, but I really do think that it's worth pulling up because this might be actually the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Since the start of the 2019 season, Pilsy, and I'm pulling this up for the people on YouTube because it's that unreal. Since the start of the 2019 season, these are the most ice time in a single game in the NHL. Pilsy, more than half of the top 9 is Thomas Chabot. The second most ice time in a game, the third, the fifth, the 8th, and the 9th. That is unacceptable, and it cannot continue going into this season.
Yeah, and just for people listening, Thomas Chabot's highest time on ice in this time span Ross has laid out is 37:50, 35:39, 33:49, and another 33:49. Oh, and I forgot a 34:50 mixed in there too. Like, that is absolutely wild. And all of these games, Ross, all of them, meaningless.
Amazing, right? Like, amazing. It really is. So they've really got to clean that up. I know none of them were in the last couple of years. A lot of them were from that 2019 season, one from the COVID season, but they really need to allow him the opportunity to rest. Like, I'm convinced that that's why he slashed.
Rest is a weapon.
I'm convinced that's why he slashed Travis Hamonic across the face by accident, because he's so delirious, because he's so exhausted when he's on the ice. He gets off and he's like, he doesn't even know what's going on. He'll never admit it. We asked him when we had him on for episode 500. Like, he's just like, no, I always want to play. Yeah, you're a professional athlete. We get that. It's on the coach and the management to understand that it's detrimental to the team to have him playing way too many minutes, way too often. If it happens once a season, sure, but he can't have multiple games over 30 minutes. It's just not good for anybody.
Especially Ross, like, there was times where it's not just multiple games, it's consecutive games where he's playing so many minutes, like half the game. He's on there night after night after night after night, and it's just all losses, and it's meaningless, and it's like, what are we doing here? So I'm glad finally that that's not going to be the case. This decor is arguably the best decor this team has seen in a long time, and I think fans are very relieved that we don't have to have that same narrative of, yeah, Tom Chabot leads the league in time on ice, but why?
Last season, Thomas Chabot played more than 27 minutes 14 times. I would like that to be closer to 5.
Yeah,
5 would be
under 10 for sure. Under 10 for sure.
And only, well, I can't see the wins, but only 2 of the losses were overtime. So like a lot of these games were in regulation, which is it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
It's just unnecessary. So let's clean that up. And I think that one, it'll help with his durability and not being injured. And 2, it'll allow him to be able to not be exhausted while he's on the ice and just let him, break the puck out, do what he does best. And that's why I reminded the World Junior stat right off the bat, because this is an elite player. And I think some people are going to be like, you have Thomas Chabot 5. He was underwhelming the last little while. No, he's an elite player in the National Hockey League. And a bit of Wade Redden in terms of how the fans kind of turn on the offensive defenseman a little bit. But I think this is a humongous year. We've already covered it with Jakob Chychrun, the best partner he's had with the Ottawa Senators.
Same for Jakob Chychrun, too. This is the best partner Chychrun's ever had.
Oh, no disrespect to Shane Goss to spare. Or man, I'm trying to think of who else he played with in Arizona. I can't. So I'll just go with Thomas Chabot being the best. I think that's a fair play. So what's a successful season to you with Thomas Chabot?
So I'm going to go with what I mentioned off the top. I think that he can get back to his career high season. So I'll rattle off those stats: 70 games, 14 goals, 41 assists for 55 points. I think he'll be a little less than that just because there's some other defensemen that are going to take chunks of his time on the power play now. So I'll say 75 games, 10 goals, and I still think he can rack up the assists. So I'll say 40 assists. So 50 points is what I think he can get there. Interesting.
And also, by the way, the roster just came out for the prospect tournament. So we'll get to that at the end of today's show as well. But back to Thomas Chabot. For me, a successful season, I want to see him hit the 50-point mark. I think that's a nice play. A career high would be great, which would be 56. But I think 50 points offensively would also show that he's playing enough games to get to 50 points. And I mean, he hasn't been a plus player a single year in his entire career. Say what you want about plus minus. I think it would even be good just for his psyche to be on the ice for more goals than he's on against at even strength.
That's where him and Wade Redden are very different.
Very, very different. Thomas Chabot is a career minus 73. He got close there in 21-22. Was just minus 3. But I would really like to see a plus player in Thomas Chabot. Let us know in the comments what you hope to see out of Thomas Chabot. Thomas Chabot, over the course of the organizational value rankings, he was number 1 in 2020. He was number 1 in 2021. Then he moved down to number 3 in 2022. And now here he is at number 5 on our Locked On Senators organizational value rankings. All right, coming in at number 4 on our organizational value rankings, it's the Claude father. It's Claude Giroux.
Yeah, and Ross, this was a recent switch by us. We had Claude Giroux lower on our list, and then we put our heads together and just said, no, we can't do that. Like the importance of Claude Giroux to this team is honestly, maybe this is a hyperbole, but unmeasurable. Like he was the perfect player to be brought in to this team at the perfect time. Sure, the core is stacked. You got Brady Tkachuk, Thomas Chabot, Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, all these guys. But all these guys have never been to the playoffs. None of them. They don't have a lot of NHL experience. And they needed a veteran that can take them over that rebuilding hump and say, hey, you guys have dealt with a lot of losing in your NHL careers. Let me let you know and show you the path to become winners, or at least not perpetual losers like you've been, and to no fault of their own. That's just where the franchise has been. I'm not trying to diss those core guys, obviously, but and then you bring in the face-offs, his ability to play center, right wing, and left wing. Like, man, and I'll be honest, Ross, when you had Claude Giroux getting 77 points at the start of the season to hit 1,000 points in his career, I just thought, okay, that's going to be a really good, not bit, but an exciting, hyperbolic content piece that we can pump out that fans are going to get excited about. I wasn't on board with you. I'll be fully honest. And not only did he get 77 points, he got 79 points. And that was a career high in goals, I believe, as well.
Yeah, it was. And he did it in style. 3 points in the first period in the final home game of the season.
Yeah. And I mean, scoring his first goal up against the Leafs, you love to see that too.
And scoring on his first shift at home.
Yeah.
Like, come on. This guy is
He's the
I think
best.
a gamer is how I describe him. Like, he's the guy when you're going to war, the more important the game is, the more you want Claude Giroux on your team. So sick. He's got I said it last year, but he's got Daniel Alfredsson DNA in him.
Yeah, he really does. And the thing is, like, a veteran guy like him, like, you know, he could kind of hang his hat and play a passive game and just try to set up the young guys, but he puts it all on the line every night. The play that is forever burned in my mind was up against the Washington Capitals, and he dives in the neutral zone. Like, this defenseman is like, oh, it's only Claude here.
Offensive zone, dude. He kept it in the blue line by like an inch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The Capitals defenseman was like, this is kind of a nothing play. People are changing lines. I'll just toss a pizza up the middle of the ice. No, like, Claude's not close enough to get it. Wrong. He dives and stops it. And I forget who it ends up going to. I think Timmy, right? And then Timmy scores it there. But either way, just that diving effort to keep it in and then keep the play alive, and it turns into a goal. That was one of those moments where I was standing up clapping, like on my couch at home watching TV. Like, it was just so amazing.
But that's not even a top 3 Claude Giroux play from last season. Maybe it's third. There's the backhand feed he gave Stützle I guess he was on the other side of that highlight. So maybe
Timmy did that, but I mean, he scores on a breakaway in OT.
And then, of course, the slap shot on the breakaway against the San Jose Sharks after a 3-minute PK shift. Some stick taps are in order for Travis Hamonic on that play as well, and Jake Sanderson, who were out there the whole time, and Anton Forsberg in net. But all those guys allowed Claude Giroux to wind up Alfie style with up in the rafters. He brushed the number 11 banner in the rafters and then came back down and scored there. That guy is unreal. And just talking to Tony Greco, his longtime trainer on our show this summer, like, he's always finishing first in summer workouts. The competitiveness is there. And my favorite part about Claude Giroux is he's on record as saying he wants to be in the NHL for his kids to grow up and see. I think this guy's got 4 or 5 years left in him, man. He didn't slow down at all. He like you said, career highs, man. He's got, we mentioned Alfredsson, but Alfie always had the bad back, which was, tough as he got older. Giroux, 82 games this year. Like, he's in full health, and he's just an ability to always be in the right spot. He's got the Pavelski gene too, man.
Yeah, he does.
They just get better with age. And these guys, man, I'm confident that Claude Giroux is going to lift the cup in Ottawa.
And we talked to Tony, and he was saying, like, yeah, sure, it was a great year for Giroux last year. He's going to be better this year. Like, his trainer is saying, like, as he got older, he's a year older, he's going to be even better than he was the year before. And yeah, I'm with you, Ross. I have full confidence that we are going to see Claude Giroux bring this team to success in the playoffs. And I don't know about 4 or 5 years, but I've often stated he's got 2 years left on this. Well, yeah, so I'll say 4 years. I think after this contract's done at 6.5 in 2025, he's going to sign a 1-year deal in 2025, 26, and then 26, 27 is going to be his final year, and he's going to end things off in Ottawa.
He's definitely not the kind of guy who's going to have a retirement tour, though, I bet. He feels like he doesn't like the attention. Remember the breakaway video when he was first star of the week where they're like, Claude, you got anything to say? He's like, no.
Yeah, or his speech after the game for his 1,000th point. I think it was just like, hey, great game, guys. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Let's go have a beer.
Yeah, it was short and sweet. But he's one of those guys where he's not a rah vocal guy, but when he stands up and talks, all eyes are on him. Everybody's paying attention. I love seeing the camera 2 tight shots of him talking to guys on the bench when he's talking to Timmy, when he's telling Shane Pinto, I'm going to score a slap shot on a breakaway, and then does it. Like, all those things, like, that's the thing. Hockey isn't just about your Corsi numbers and how many goals you score and percentages and heat graphs. These are people, and you need people that can lead. And a guy like Claude Giroux, who's a captain in Philly forever and able to look at Brady and say, yeah, sure, I'm the veteran here and I was a captain, but I'm still willing to fall under the leadership of Brady while kind of mentoring him as like an advisor. And I just think it worked out so well. I'm so happy that Claude Giroux is an Ottawa Senator. it feels great. I can't wait to watch another season of him in a Sens jersey.
Yeah, it really is almost surreal that he chose to play for the Ottawa Senators, and he's bringing with him a ton of not only experience but competitiveness and fieriness. Like, what stands out to me is, remember when Brady was fighting at center ice against Jakob Chychrun at MSG, and G is like, he's like shadow boxing on the bench, like he's almost like in it himself. It was just another example of that. We got to mention the goal he scored against the Leafs too, where he just toe dragged the defense into oblivion and ripped it past Samsonov, where they're wearing those brutal black Leafs jerseys. So no, all good with Claude Giroux. Like, my successful season for Claude Giroux is just run it back, do that all over again.
Yeah. So what point totals are we looking at here for you?
If he's gonna do better, let's say 80.
What's the point breakdown though?
Oh, I'll go 35-45.
Yeah, I don't think he hits 35 again. I think he hits high 20s, but bumps up the assist numbers.
Okay. What's your call then?
So I'm just going back to his last year's stats. So yeah, if he can play 82 games again, that'll be so amazing. So I'll say 75 games. I think there's going to be some maintenance throughout the season here. I'll say 28 goals and 50 assists.
Okay. 28 goals, 50
28
assists.
goals for number 28.
Yes, and number 28 has also jumped up our rankings by 4 spots. That's how big of a season Claude Giroux had. He came in at number 8 on our list last year. We were like, okay, let's pump the brakes. We don't want to, go crazy. He's 34 years old, blah, blah, blah. No, he's that good, only getting better. And he slows the game down, so it's not like I'm even worried about potentially having him lose a step, because he's that smart, that elite. The hockey sense is unreal. We get to see it. Claude Giroux is an Ottawa Senator. He comes in at number 4 on our organizational value rankings. All right, Pills, any final thoughts on today's show?
Well, I'll save my final thoughts for a little later. Are we going to take a look at the rookie roster, or are we going to save that for tomorrow?
I'll just say a couple of quick notes on it, and then we're going to put together our lineups tomorrow. I will tell you that Tyler Boucher will be there, Ridley Gregg will be there, Zach Ostapchuk, Roby Yarventi, Tyler Klevin, and Levi Marilainen.
I'm surprised Roby's there. Wow, that's interesting.
Yep, exactly.
I like it, though. All right, sweet. Yeah, I want to save it for tomorrow, too, because I want to get in depth on that. So final thoughts for me is recurring theme. My final thoughts are going to be about the merch. Ross, we have officially made it. We have fake Sens Central merch out there. Beware, everyone. If you Google Sens Central merch, one of the top hits is a fake company. I'm not even going to plug their name or give them any shine. We have already reached out with a cease and desist to them. Do not buy Sens merch off any website other than where you're directed on our link tree. Gator is our official merch supplier, and just be aware that there's people trying to profit off the Sens Central merch, and you don't want to get duped and get fake stuff. You want the real stuff.
You want the real stuff. And we want a real big season ahead for the Ottawa Senators. It all starts with the rookie tournament. They'll be skating tomorrow on the ice in Buffalo on Friday. So tomorrow we'll have a full breakdown of the roster and then 3 players to watch. Oh, yeah. And 1, 2, 3, the top tier on our organization.
I wonder who it's going to be.
Value rankings. I think it's going to get contentious.
Oh, do you?
We'll stave that for tomorrow. For today, we say goodbye. Have a great day, everyone. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.